I found out my twin brother has been secretly dating my ex-fiance for 3 years behind my back. Growing up, I always thought my family was the embodiment of unconditional love and support. We weren't perfect, but I never doubted that they had my back when it counted. My twin brother Ethan and I were inseparable from birth. At least that's what all our childhood photos suggested. Our parents constantly reminded us how special our twin bond was, how we were each other's built-in best friends for life. The twin thing is interesting. We're fraternal, not identical, so we actually look pretty different. Ethan got our dad's height and tall, naturally athletic, the kind of guy who never had to work out, but always looked fit. I took after our mom's side, shorter, and had to work twice as hard at everything physical. But what I lacked in natural athletic ability, I made up for in academics and drive. I was always the responsible one, the planner, the one with solid grades and career ambitions. Our parents pretended they didn't play favorites, but the reality was different. Ethan could do no wrong in their eyes. When we were kids, if something got broken, they assumed it was my fault before even asking. When we both played sports, they go to all of Ethan's games, but only catch mine if they had time. I got used to it though. I learned to be self-sufficient and not expect much from them in terms of emotional support. Despite this imbalance, I never resented Ethan. Growing up, we were close in our own way. He was charming and social, while I was more reserved. He struggled academically, and I'd help him study. I admired his easy confidence, and he seemed to appreciate my reliability. We had an understanding that worked for us. After college, I landed a solid job in finance. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid well and offered stability. Ethan bounced between jobs, never quite finding his footing, but our parents always praised his free spirit and diverse experiences. Meanwhile, they consistently undermined my career choices, suggesting I was playing it too safe or lacking ambition. I brushed it off. I was building something for myself, and their approval had stopped mattering to me years ago. Then I met Olivia. She was brilliant, ambitious, funny, and somehow she chose me. We connected instantly over our shared love of obscure documentaries and hiking. After dating for 2 years, I proposed, and she said yes, planning our future together. We talked about where we'd live, our career goals, even how many kids we wanted. Ethan and Olivia got along well, too, which made family gatherings easy and enjoyable. I thought I had it all figured out. I was wrong. 6 months before our wedding, Olivia became distant. She started canceling date nights, taking longer to respond to texts, and seemed distracted whenever we were together. When I asked if everything was okay, she'd insist she was just stressed about work. I believed her because I trusted her completely. Then one night, she came over and returned my ring. She told me she needed space, that she felt we were moving too fast, and that something was missing in our relationship. I was blindsided. Through tears, I asked what had changed, what I had done wrong. She insisted it wasn't me, that she just needed time to figure things out. I respected her decision, as painful as it was. I didn't beg or plead. I just asked her if there was someone else. She looked me straight in the eyes and said no. The breakup devastated me. I threw myself into work, avoided family gatherings, and barely left my apartment except to go to the gym. My friends tried to get me out, but I wasn't ready. Ethan called occasionally to check in, but our conversations were brief. He said he was busy with a new job opportunity that was taking up all his time. I didn't question it. We were adults with our own lives now. Over the next year, I slowly rebuilt myself. I got promoted at work, started traveling more, and eventually began dating again, though nothing serious. Whenever family asked about my love life, I kept my answers vague. My parents occasionally mentioned that Ethan was seeing someone special, but he was keeping it private for now. I was happy for him, but too consumed with my own life to give it much thought. 3 years after my breakup with Olivia, my parents called to invite me to a surprise engagement party they were throwing. They wouldn't tell me who it was, for insisting it would ruin the surprise. I assumed it was for a cousin or family friend. I almost didn't go. I had a work trip planned that weekend, but my mother was unusually insistent, saying it was extremely important that I be there. So I rescheduled my trip and flew home for the weekend. When I arrived at my parents' house, it was already filled with family, friends, and faces I didn't recognize. I grabbed a drink and made small talk with relatives, still clueless about whose engagement we were celebrating. Then my father clinked his glass and called for everyone's attention. He was beaming with pride as he announced that we were gathered to celebrate Ethan and his fiancée. My brother stepped forward, grinning widely, and then emerging from the crowd to stand beside him was Olivia. My Olivia. She was smiling, her hand intertwined with my twin brother's, a sparkling engagement ring, noticeably larger than the one I had given her on her finger. The room spun. I must have made a noise because several people turned to look at me. Olivia's smile faltered for just a second when our eyes met, But Ethan's grin never wavered. He looked directly at me as he pulled her closer and kissed her temple. My parents stood beside them, practically glowing with happiness. I don't remember moving, but suddenly I was standing in front of them. My voice was eerily calm when I asked how long they had been together. Ethan maintained his smile and said, "About 3 years now." 3 years, which meant they got together almost immediately after, or possibly even before, Olivia ended things with me. My mother must have sensed my shock because she quickly said, "Isn't it wonderful when two people find each other? Sometimes it's just meant to be." I looked at her in disbelief. "You knew. All of you knew." I turned to my father, who was suddenly very interested in his drink. "You knew she was my fiancée." "Ex-fiancée," Ethan corrected, his tone light, but his eyes challenging. "And yes, everyone knew. We didn't tell you because we figured you'd overreact." Clearly, we were right. Olivia finally spoke, her voice soft. "We didn't plan this. It just happened. We connected in a way that was unexpected. I'm sorry you had to find out this way." I laughed then, a hollow sound that silenced the room. "You're sorry about how I found out, but not about secretly dating my brother behind my back? Not about lying to my face when you broke off our engagement?" My father stepped forward, placing a hand on my shoulder that I immediately shrugged off. "Son, what's done is done. They're happy together. Isn't that what matters? It's time to let this go. Let it go." As if they were talking about a borrowed shirt that wasn't returned. Not the complete betrayal by the people I trusted most in the world. I looked around the room at the faces staring at me. Some embarrassed, some curious, some completely oblivious to the drama unfolding. And in that moment, I felt utterly alone. I turned back to Ethan and Olivia. "Congratulations. You deserve each other." And I walked out, ignoring my mother's calls to come back and be reasonable. I drove straight to a hotel, checked in, and turned off my phone. For hours, I sat on the edge of the bed, trying to process what had happened. The betrayal wasn't just that they were together, though. That was excruciating enough. It was that everyone had known. For 3 years, my entire family had kept this secret from me, had watched me grieve my relationship and rebuild my life, all while knowing the truth. The next morning, I turned my phone back on to find dozens of missed calls and messages. Most were from my parents, insisting I was overreacting and needed to think of the family. A few were from extended relatives who claimed they had no idea about the history and were sorry for my pain. None were from Ethan or Olivia. I called my mother back. She immediately launched into how I had ruined Ethan's special night with my selfishness. When I finally got a word in, I asked her a simple if the situation were reversed, if I had dated Ethan's ex-fiancée behind his back, would you be telling him to let go? Her silence was telling. After a moment, she said, "That's different. Ethan has always struggled to find his way. He deserves this happiness." And there it was, the naked truth of where I stood in my family's hierarchy of needs. I told her I needed time and space and that I wouldn't be coming to any family events for a while. She called me childish and said I needed to grow up. I hung up and booked the next flight home. Over the following weeks, I tried to process my feelings. I wasn't still in love with Olivia. Time had healed that wound, but the deliberate deception by my own twin and my entire family had opened a new, deeper one. I decided the healthiest thing for me was distance. So I limited contact with my family to brief, polite responses to direct messages. 6 months after the engagement party, I received an unexpected call from my grandfather's attorney. My grandfather had passed away 3 years earlier, leaving Ethan and me equal portions of his estate in a trust that was to be released when we turned 30 or upon getting married, whichever came first. I had been close to my grandfather, who had always treated Ethan and me equally. He was the one family member who seemed to see and value us both for who we were. The attorney informed me that there had been a modification to the trust a few months before my grandfather's death. According to the paperwork, I had requested my portion be given to Ethan instead, with a small stipend set aside for me. The attorney was calling because something about it struck him as unusual and he wanted to verify. This had been my wish. I was stunned. I had never requested any such modification. In fact, I hadn't even known the specific terms of the inheritance until that moment. I told the attorney this and asked to see the documentation. He emailed it to me, and